Hey everyone, this is Anne from Nike Bees, and I'm going to show you how to install a package today. So the first thing I want to go over is the tools that you're going to need. You're going to need some kind of hive tool, Langstroth hive tool, with the pry bar edge. You're going to need your package of bees. It's a 3-pound package with a queen, similar to what you will be receiving. You're either going to need a little piece of duct tape, like this, or you could use a rubber band. And then you are going to need a hive setup. So most of you will be working with Langstroths. This is a 10-frame Langstroth. We have a bottom board. We have a screen to prevent robbing. We have the actual box. And then we use drawn frames when we're installing packages here. So we use drawn frames, but you might have different frames. You might have frames that are just starting to get drawn out like this. You might have just frames that have the little bit of guide comb on the very top, like your popsicle sticks here. Or you might just have waxed black plastic foundation. That's fine to use as well. Or you might just have wired frames, also fine to use. You decide what the equipment you're going to be installing into is. I think it's always great to be able to give your package at least one frame of drawn comb. And if you're interested in purchasing a frame of drawn comb, you can reach out to us and we can have that ready to go with your package. But no matter what, you're going to want to have all 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10 frames ready to get in your box. And what I do is I take out the middle 2 frames that go in this box. A little more room here. And I'm gonna dump the bulk bees into this space where those middle 2 frames are gonna go. So let's talk about getting your bees out of the package. Your package of bees comes with 3 pounds of bulk bees and a queen in a cage. The cage has attendants and it also has a cap on it. And then it has this tin can looking thing here on the top. This is a feeding can and it drips sugar syrup down into the package, feeding the bees. And you can use this to feed the bees when you transition them from your package box to your Langstroth box. The very first thing you're going to need to do when you're installing your package is you need to get that feeder can out. So what I like to do is actually lay the package on its side like this over my box that I'm going to install into. And the reason is you're going to need to pry this can out, and it's very difficult to pry out when there's so much weight on it. The bees are hanging down from it, and the can itself that has sugar syrup is heavy. And that can lead to this little tab, that's your queen cage cap, falling off or getting stuck, or it can just lead to the can coming out unevenly and being really hard to pry out. So I lay it on its side, okay, and then I take my pry bar edge and I gently begin to move that can out. Once I got a good grip on it with my fingers, I hold on to that, and then I take my thumb and my index finger and I grab onto the cap of the queen cage. Very gently wiggle this out, nice and slow so you don't roll any bees. If you give it this little wiggle vibration, they're gonna move out of the way. And then as soon as you get this can out, bees are gonna start flying. So be aware of that, take a deep breath, stay calm. Bees are not protecting brood when they come out of a package, so they're not going to be aggressive. They really just want to get out, get their queen out, and get to work. Alright, so our package is open, and now I'm going to take the queen cage out. Here's our queen cage. We use these plastic queen cages. In some packages you'll see wooden queen cages. These are plastic, they're called JZBZ cages. We've got a queen in here with 5 attendants who are taking care of her inside the cage. And then we have a candy plug, and then we have a little plastic cap. We're going to take that plastic cap off, just by giving it a nice gentle twist. Pops off. Shake the bees off of that, stash it in my pocket. Now, the queen candy is exposed, so the bees in this package can now chew this candy while the queen and the attendants inside await being released. Once all this candy has been chewed out, the queen will emerge from the cage and she'll start laying eggs in any drawn comb, or she'll wait until the bees have drawn out some comb. Alright, so we have our cage, and what I want to do is suspend it inside of my hive. So I like to do that usually I use a rubber band, but I don't have any today. So I'm going to use a really thin piece of duct tape. So we use what we got around here. Okay, I'm going to take this piece of duct tape, I'm going to lay it over the top bar of this Langstroth frame. I'm going to take my queen cage, and I'm going to get it as close to the top as I can. I'm going to take one edge of the duct tape and wrap it around, bring it up to my top bar once again, and the other edge goes around this way. Now what we have is a cage that can hang freely. The sugar plug is open and available to the bees. It's not getting blocked by any wax or any obstruction. And we're going to take that frame and we're going to put it right in the middle of this box. That frame with our queen goes right in the middle. There's space on either side. And then you can fill your frames in on the edges. Now we're going to take this box of bees, and even though this sounds nuts, we're going to shake it. What we're going to do is shake nice and gently over where the queen is. A package is a lot like a swarm. So your bees are not protecting brood. They're not going to feel defensive. They're going to cluster up just like this, and they're going to go down into the dark and down into the frames where they smell that queen. Nice and gently. You don't have to shake this too hard. The bees will roll out. So I've shook about 2/3 of the bees in the package out, but there's still a lot of bees in here holding onto the screen. What I'm going to do is take this package and I'm going to bop it on the ground. And then I'm going to bop it on one edge like this. Now I've got a nice ball of bees in the corner here. I'm going to shake that one more time, nice and gently, into my box. Give them a moment to settle. Free oak leaf in here. Your bees smell their queen and they smell that wax, and so they're going to start running down. Today it's actually quite cold and wet, so they're clustered up quite a bit because of the temperature and the moisture in the air. What's great to do when it's cold and wet like this is just give them a little darkness. So you can take your outer cover and just very gently rest it here so it's not closed, it's not smashing down on that ball of bees. It's just resting along the top edge, giving those bees some time to go down. In the meantime, I'm going to grab a feeder for these bees. So we use frame feeders in our apiary. They cut down on robbing. They're pretty easy to use. You have ladders on either side, this plastic protector that keeps the bees from falling in and drowning, and bees can get into here. You can fill these edges up with syrup. You can also use a top feeder, putting an additional box on and using a jar. And as I said, this jar is a feeder. It doesn't have much in it. I can feel that this is quite light, but in a pinch, if you wanted to leave this on while you mixed up syrup, there's holes here, here, and here, and you'd flip this over and rest it on your top bars, like so, and add your second box. Now I have a little bit of bees left here in my box. I'm gonna again hit the edge, getting all those bees in a nice ball in the corner. And then I can shake those at the front entrance. At the front entrance, they'll smell the queen and they'll head in there. Stick together like Velcro for sure. So my box is fairly empty. Once you've got it so that there's only maybe 20, 30 bees in it, you can rest it on the top of your hive and the bees will exit that over the next couple of hours. So I'm gonna leave this for a couple minutes and go grab my feed so that I'm able to feed this hive. Okay, so I'm adding my frame feeder on the edge here, nice and gently. And then because my bees have started running down between the frames, I want to move these frames closer together. So I'm going to take the index and thumb on my fingers. I'm going to grab onto my Langstroth bar. I'm going to move this over gently. This is the one with my queen taped on there. You see that little bit of duct tape? And I want to be careful not to squish any bees in between the spacers. So how do I do that? I slowly move the frame over, give it a little wiggle, and the bees move out of the way. Same thing on this one. Sticky. Slowly move the frame over. Press those nice and tight together, giving it a wiggle so the bees move out of the way. Now I've got a little bit of space here. Because it's a new hive, I'm going to leave it with 9 frames. And I can come back and add my 10th frame unless you have enough room. I'm installing this on a hive that's got a lot of propolis. So because of that, I'm just going to press everything nice and tight to the center and leave 9 frames. Come back and add that 10th frame tomorrow or the next day. Now for feed, we are going to add 1-to-1 sugar syrup to stimulate the bees so that they start producing wax. And so we are going to mix 1 part sugar and 1 part water and pour that into our frame feeder on either edge. Ratios can be a little confusing, so just to be very clear, what we're mixing is 1 cup sugar, 1 cup water until we get about 2 or 3 quarts of feed. These frame feeders, they can hold up to 1 gallon of feed. But we're going to just feed 3 quarts for now. Feeding your package is going to do 2 things. As I said, it's going to stimulate them to produce wax so they build out and your queen can begin to lay in some new wax if you don't already have it. The other thing is it gives them the food that motivates them to stick around and build their nest here. Oftentimes if we don't feed a package or a swarm when they're getting adjusted to a new location, they could abscond because they don't feel like they have everything they need. So this 1-to-1 syrup is a great way to get them to stick around. Put 3 quarts in there. I'm going to take my inner cover. I'm going to put that on. I want to be careful not to squish bees, so if I need to move them over a little with my finger, I can do that. I can also take this and just gently place it down, giving it a little bit of wiggle to move the bees out of the way. And then you notice, because I put the outer cover on to let the bees move down into the frames, and so I have a lot of bees on my outer cover. There's a space between my outer and inner cover, so these bees will eventually move down, but I do want to make sure that they're not along this edge where the wood is going to meet the top. So, just move them out of the way by giving them a little wiggle. Don't always want to do what you say. And then when you put this down, nice and gently come down until you can feel wood meet wood. If you feel soft bodies being crushed, you need to lift this up and clear some more bees out of the way. The less bees you crush when you do installations, inspections, etc., the more docile or calm your bees are going to be. And so it's really helpful to be mindful of not crushing bees. Now we have our bees on the outer edge. They are festooning and hanging out and starting to move into the space. And that's it. Our package is installed. So what we're gonna do next is we are going to check this hive in 48 hours and make sure that the queen has been released. So you just check that cage and make sure that the candy's been chewed all the way through. And then after that, you're gonna wait a week and you're gonna check it again to make sure that the queen is laying. In the interim, you wanna be checking this feed, dumping old feed out every 3 to 5 days, and renewing feed. You wanna feed that 1-to-1 syrup until you come back 7 to 10 days later and you see that your queen is laying eggs and your hive is starting to build out. Then, whether or not you feed is gonna depend on whether there is a nectar flow or a nectar dearth. So whether there is nectar around you, and there's a lot of nectar being produced by flowering plants, or there's no nectar available. If there's a lot of nectar around, you want to keep an eye on your hive and make sure you see it coming into the hive and being stored. And if there's no nectar around, no flowering plants, then you do want to continue feeding until your hive is has built out 5 to 7 frames. Now this is only a single Langstroth box, so after your bees have built out 5 to 7 frames, that's when you would add your second Langstroth box. So for now, we're just going to use this single box. We're going to wait till our bees have built out a little bit of wax and our queen is laying in those 5 to 7 frames, and then we can add a second box to encourage our bees to keep building. Usually if you're pushing to add those second boxes, I also encourage feeding. Feed your bees when you install a package consistently, and they'll grow rapidly and be able to take advantage of the nectar flow at the same time. Don't feed your bees and it's going to take a little bit longer for them to grow out and bulk up to be able to meet their needs and feed their brood. So it's really up to you, but I do recommend feeding them during these transitions. Installing a package is just like catching a swarm. So your bees don't have nectar, they don't have pollen, and they don't have brood. And in order to build up into a full-size hive, they need to have a consistent source of food. And so by you giving it to them, you are stimulating them to expand the brood nest more rapidly. That's it. Fairly simple, fairly quick. Thanks for watching. and good luck with